There hasn't always been a lot of fishing in the creek of recent years just here, but yes, there is seasonal, there is garfish, and there is some whiting. Some of the flathead come up, but we're lucky that down here on the pier that we have a lot of international friends, residents that come down, and you can always get, whether they be Indian or Korean or Sri Lankan or Chinese or anybody, Italians, Greeks. It's been a very, very multinational creek, to have people fishing down there, because we do have the snapper going through, and you can see the schools of cormorants and seagulls following the little schools of fish, and of course everybody loves to catch a fish when they can. But again, that's out in the bay as opposed to coming up the creek. Many years ago, there was a lot of commercial fishing in Port Phillip, and we used to have some very large scallop dredges that were just parked here at the mouth of the creek. And look, it was very beneficial for the creek because of the large boats and their propellers. Each time they went in and out of the creek, they turned up the mud and the sand on the bottom of the creek, and so that flushed the sand out. But because of environmental issues, we've been stopping a lot of the state government has bought out a lot of commercial fishing licences, because what they felt, these scallop people and the commercial fishers were upsetting the base of the bay, where the sand and where the other fish grow in the reefs. And they're finding that the fish numbers were depleting, so they bought out the licences of the commercial people, and hopefully that's renewed the the growth. Now along the bay here, maybe not so much out here at Mordialloc, but along the bay they've put in some artificial reefs, some concrete blocks and some bundles of old car and truck tyres. So what happens, they grow algae, they grow sea growth, and of course the fish come in, and so that is enhancing the quality. But yes, there is no commercial fishing, but we do have an amateur fishing club just the other side of Nepean Highway. They're more than willing to eat the fish, as opposed, because we do not have any signs on the creek put up by council or the health department. There are one or two other rivers maybe on the other side of town, maybe like the Maribyrnong, where there are warnings, please do not eat more than 4 or 5 fish per year if caught in this creek. But we're very fortunate that we're the people that catch the fish, eat the fish, and look after it.
Well, some people we interview, they said like they won't eat the fish from the creek because it's pretty
poor quality.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, do you also think so, or do you?
I would rather eat fish from caught in the bay rather than in the creek. It can vary quite a bit, but because the fish don't always live in the creek, they come up the creek and they go out. But no, look, I look, just as a personal thing, I would rather eat fish caught in the bay than perhaps regularly that I've seen in the creek. Yes, I can't say I've fished in the creek for many years at all, but yes, I've fished out in the bay, and it's quite successful. Well, it has varied a lot because of the environment and more people building and more industrial businesses further up in the top end of the creek there. And of course what happens is the outflow and all the industrial refuse, sometimes it gets washed into the creek, because many years ago this was like a farming and a agricultural area, and the creek had a very, very, very good flow out to the Port Phillip Bay, and over the period of time, because of the boat building and other industrial, caravan building and motor repairs and paint operators and things, we're often finding now, because there's more boats being moored in the creek and more people using the creek, there can be some wastage of products that go into the creek itself. Also because of the environment, also because of people picnicking, drink bottles, plastic bags, just general effluence. Sometimes there's some wastage for people that use the creek. They don't often think consciously. They might put a little bit of bait or a little bit of empty, anything from their thermoses or things like that. They might spill a bit of petrol from their motor. They might wash out their boat, and some of the the waste goes into the creek itself. Well, there's interested groups of people that go around and collect waste rubbish, but it's basically the Roads Board and City of Kingston that have to be encouraged as a community to take responsibility of what flows into the creek itself. Because it's like our bodies, whatever goes into your body becomes part of your body. What goes into the creek becomes part of our environmental system, and we just have to have ways of advising people how to look after it. What we do find when there's a rainy period, that a lot of the rain again washes down the gutters, washes down the overflow from the bitumen, because there's not a lot of little traps, that we have in our gutters, or pre-trapping waste and rubbish before it gets into the creek, and the creek can become quite cloudy, quite dirty. But if we've had a long period without any rain, the creek, you can see the bottom of the creek, and it's beautiful, absolutely clean, bright, clear and green, and it's quite lovely. And I think that is sometimes to show people the benefit of having a good creek, having animals, having insects, having birds, having, be fishing further up, even being able to walk past a creek and it doesn't smell, the stinky mud, things like that. So yes, there's ways of looking after it. But again, a lot of it, the council can only do so much. And for many years, yes, the public have been encouraged. Look after your own backyard. Recently, that there's a lot of sediment that happens in Mordialloc Creek, at the mouth of the creek, and it becomes very, very shallow. So 2 or 3 times a year, Parks Victoria come along and they do depth soundings. And when it becomes to a minimum point, they bring a big dredge that's rotated between Patterson River, Frankston, Cannonock Creek, Mordialloc, and then further up in around the Yarra River. Now, what we've got here, when the occasion arises, the dredge comes down and they have some long pipes, and all this sand here in front of us is very fine filtered sand that comes from the creek. And at times when we have some very strong tidal flows, plus also wind, and you can see just to the top edge of our sand dunes here, the council have put up some danger flags, and you can see that there's quite a bit. There's probably been about 15 metres of the sand dunes that have been washed away. And as you look further down, you can just see some horizontal lines just this side of the pine trees, and they're 1.5 tonne sandbags that have been placed there by council to stop erosion for the properties. So we're finding that whether it be anything to do with the environment, that we hate to discuss by a lot of people, but it's a realistic thing that we're finding that our sand dunes are being washed away. And this has been a 5-6 year project from council. And where we've had the tides here, this has only happened in the last 3 or 4 week period. So it's quite a concern for us about the effects of the environment, in this particular area. And needless to say, the residents. Totally. Exactly. Indeed. And that shows just the importance that we have to have as a council, as a community, of where we put rock walls, where we have to put bollards, where we have to put various protection, and just the effect of the tidal flow. What we think we're protecting in one area, we sometimes can create an inert problem in another area. Some of this is rooted down, but you'll find bits of plastic. Bits of plastic, bottle tops, plastic bags, cigarette packets.
Like a lot of plastic fragments.
Tops out of inside of bottles. There's a lot of rubbish that just comes around. Cigarette butts, plenty of cigarette butts. And again, they take many, many years to break down.
Exactly.
So that is something else that we have to be aware of around here. And these are the pallets. The pallets of plastic that everybody is being aware of these days.
Oh, what is this from?
So this is the breakdown of some plastic products.
Oh.
Like you have a bean bag
Uh-huh.
and other little bits and pieces. So all these are the fish eat and the birds eat.
Yeah.
And of course this bit of plastic will break down and they go into little capsules, go into the ocean, and the fish eat it, goes into their stomach.
Yeah. But finally it goes to a human's stomach because we eat the fish from the ocean, right?
Well,
So, yeah.
indirectly,
Yeah,
if the plastic is digested. But again, if it goes into the fish stomach, you do not normally eat the intestines.
Yeah, exactly.
But the impurities and the poisons from the plastic. Indeed.
It's all right. Like in the winter, it's pretty good for salmon, and sometimes it's good for snapper, the pier. But the creek, it's pretty good. You can catch lots of mullet in it sometimes. Brim.
So will you eat the fish that you get, or you will just put them back?
Depends how big it is and what type of fish it is. I usually eat the fish from the pier if they're big enough. And I won't eat anything from the creek. Like, I'll eat it from just the top of the creek, but not down.
Oh, not in the down. Okay. So why? Because of the fish type, or because the fish in those parts are polluted, or
Yeah, it's really polluted.
really polluted.
Yeah. Well, sometimes they do dredging of the creek, which is they get all the sand and like take it out and then put it over there. So
You know, the water before and back then and right now a little bit different, because like some people like throw the rubbish, whatever, some people at the bridge up there, some people are disgusting to do the piece over there, you know what I mean? That's why the water not the same like before. Yeah, before very clean, even the beach over there very clean. Yeah.